This is KGW News at noon.
Members, the Senate will please come to order.
The House will come to order in compliance with Article 4, Section 10 of the Oregon Constitution and further in compliance with ORS 171.010. I ask you to take your seats for the convening of the 2024 regular session of the 82nd Legislative Assembly of Oregon.
Those gavels marking the start of the legislative session this morning. Today is the first day of the new short session. That means state lawmakers have just 35 days this year to introduce and decide what bills will be passed or voted down. Among the big priorities, housing, homelessness, and drugs. Our Devin Haskins has a preview.
Last week, Governor Kotek and lawmakers spoke with reporters and laid out their plans for this upcoming session. Governor Tina Kotek has one goal: more housing.
We have a critical shortage of housing supply across the state, and that is why, as I've been saying, my number one focus for the legislative session is to put as much as possible into the effort to improve housing production.
In her sole bill going forward this session, she's asking for $500 million from existing state resources for a variety of housing projects. The bill would also allow cities to adjust their urban growth boundaries under certain conditions.
Oregonians know the status quo is not working on housing production.
House leaders agree.
We are committed to getting production up. We have to, but there has to be conversations when it comes to land use.
Another big topic, drugs, and the impacts of the voter-approved Measure 110, which decriminalized them.
We want to see a significant fix to ballot Measure 110.
The two sides have a different view of what needs to happen. Democrats want to make it a low-level misdemeanor, a Class C, whereas Republicans want to make it a Class A misdemeanor, the highest level.
I want to see the penalties raised for drug deaths from drug dealers and making that connection because I think it's there.
Governor Kotek was asked about it and sidestepped a question about whether she'd sign a bill that recriminalized drugs.
I want to make sure that all parts of the bill make sense and we're actually going to have outcomes. The issue of addiction and the need for pathways to recovery should not be a political football.
And a big focus will be looking at how Republican senators react during this year's session. Because of the voter-approved Measure 113, a 6-week-long Republican walkout last year made 10 Republican senators ineligible for re-election after their term expired because they had 10 unexcused absences. On Thursday, it was upheld by the Oregon Supreme Court.
And they barred 10 Republicans from running for office this cycle and next. It's about half and half. So we will continue to serve and do the best we can under the limitations that have been provided.
Will you appeal this?
I will personally not be appealing this particular decision.
That was Devin Haskins reporting. And tonight at 6:30, Pat Doris and the team from The Story will be at the Capitol meeting with lawmakers on both sides to dig into their plans. The Story is dedicating the entire half hour to the upcoming session, including a step-by-step guide on how you can weigh in on the issues that are important to you. Catch their full half-hour special tonight at 6:30 right here on KGW. The man charged with criminally negligent homicide in a December overdose death in Southwest Portland was in court today, entering his plea. Hugo Gamez Soto pleaded not guilty this morning after being indicted on 10 charges last week.
He has been appointed Alexis Anderson. He acknowledges the receipt and a copy of the charging instrument. He is not a veteran. He waives further reading the charging instrument and advice of rights. Reserves all rights read into the record. Enters a plea of not guilty and request dates. Thank you, Your Honor.
So the case centers on the death of a 29-year-old man in Southwest Portland's Hillsdale neighborhood last December. Police say cell phone records indicate Gamez Soto sold fentanyl to the man near Ida B. Wells High School. According to the DA's office, Gamez Soto is Honduran and has been arrested 5 times for drug-related charges in multiple states. Gamez Soto's next court appearance will be March 18th at 9 a.m. Now to a fatal hit and run that took place earlier this morning in southeast Portland. Police say a car hit and killed a man at the intersection of Southeast 82nd and Flavel, and the person behind the wheel sped off. They responded to this call shortly after 2 a.m. Police shut down Southeast 82nd between Malden Court and Henderson Street. Investigators also shut down Southeast Flavel between 80th and 84th. Both of those roads now back open. So far, though, police have not named any suspects. Well, before we get to Rod for his weather forecast, take a look at our Wells Fargo Skycam in downtown Portland. Those raindrops covering the camera there. And Rod, very different for sure this noon than the weekend.
Yeah, the weekend was fantastic. You know, the forecast for today, out of my lips, if you will, rain at times. Well, the at times part has been every single moment of the day. We have not had any breaks to speak of in Portland. I mean, it's gone back and forth between really light and then kind of moderate rain. We still have snow over the Cascades, but it's been light and pass level temperatures. Although it's been snow falling at ground level, the passes have been above freezing, so traveling not an issue at this hour. How much rain have we picked up? Salem 29 100ths, Portland just over a tenth. That shows you that it's been mainly light rain today. We've got over a quarter of an inch down in Eugene as well. And what we expected, not as much along the valley as some of the coastal areas. Up in Astoria, it's been about a tenth of an inch of rain, not quite that much actually. Vancouver and Kelso, just a little bit more than that. Very dark up in Gearhart right now. That's barely see Tillamookad. This is from the camera at Gearhart by the Sea Resort, looking back down. Of course, Seaside's down there by Tillamookad. Pretty cloudy and very overcast, in fact, with rain at times in Lincoln City as well. 51 degrees from our Chinook Winds Casino Resort Camp. That looks kind of socked in, doesn't it, with the rain currently falling over downtown and that temperature of 47. Still looks like steady temperatures for the remainder of today, 49. Once we get into the evening, we still expect to see the rain start to break up, and it actually becomes mostly dry overnight tonight. 7-day forecast, which has a lot of rain yet to come. That's straight ahead.
Okay, thank you so much, Rod. A recent Portland State University report found Oregon has the second highest rate of unsheltered homelessness in the country. The report says the number of people living on Oregon streets increased by 8.5% between 2022 and 2023. It also found Oregon only has enough shelter beds to accommodate 42% of its homeless population.
The data is distressing. It's horrible in lots of ways, but based on the year that we and other nonprofits have experienced serving this community last year, not surprising at all.
The PSU report also shows Black, Indigenous, and other people of color in Oregon experience much higher rates of homelessness than white people. The report cites the rising cost of housing and mental health issues as the two main causes behind the jump in homeless numbers. Meantime, University of Oregon researchers have put together a guide to help cities figure out how best to introduce self-driving cars onto city streets. And while they say it'll probably be at least another decade or two before self-driving cars with no one in the front seat are common across the country, they believe right now is the time to start preparing.
We often talk about autonomous vehicles as, are they safe enough? And I like to think that safety is necessary but not sufficient. We absolutely have to have them safe enough, but having safe vehicles that end up increasing inequities or creating more congestion or creating more environmental problems is not a great solution. So that we really need to think about these vehicles holistically, not just will we be safe in them, but how are they going to affect overall where we live, how we live, the choices we have, those types of things.
So that U of O professor says safety concerns should keep cities from rushing to allow self-driving cars on their streets.